Hey everybody, 'tis I. I want to talk about a concern I have regarding parental estrangement and what I see is happening more and more with parents who are facing this type of situation. I'm going to say I dive into a lot of shows where human nature is outside of the norm, whether it's My 600-Pound Life, Intervention, Hoarders, etc. Because I'm just so darn curious as to why people behave the way they do or make choices that are just not healthy for themselves. And so what I see happening today with a lot of parents facing parental estrangement is that they will attach a medical diagnosis to their adult son or daughter, or try to place the blame elsewhere. It's similar to what parents do when their child falls off the rails as teens. Instead of saying, my child is choosing this, they'll say, well, my son hangs out with her, his best friend so-and-so, or he goes to his friend's house and his mama. And so a lot of that happens instead of saying, I really should get a handle on this, and I really should take a look and see what's going on in the house. And my son or daughter is making a decision to do drugs or to engage in a certain behavior. Parents today, when it comes to parental estrangement, are labeling their children with medical diagnosis, even though their son or daughter has never seen a doctor for said diagnosis. I'm reading more and more in a lot of groups where a parent says, oh, my daughter has bipolar, multiple personality disorder, she is narcissistic, or there's there's just a lot of diagnosis I see that's getting thrown around, which number one to me is concerning, because even if someone is bipolar, that's their diagnosis. It's against the law to actually discuss someone's medical diagnosis without getting into some sort of trouble, because HIPAA laws cover a lot of things. And so all I know is that I'm getting slightly perturbed, but also there's a certain understanding. When our child rejects us and takes a path that is not in our favor or looks favorable upon us, it's so much easier to diagnose or point fingers than to say, my son or daughter has chosen to break free. This is on them. This is their choice. And that's just the way it is. It's actually giving responsibility back to your son or daughter to say, you know what, if you're choosing this, that's on you. And as of today, I'm going to respect your choices, and I'm going to go create a new life for myself. I'm going to dive into something a little bit deeper, which can be understandable. I'm watching, and like I said, I watch human nature shows, but I'm watching this Mr. Phillips interviewing Jeffrey Dahmer, which was one of the last interviews I think Jeffrey Dahmer had with his father. And his father in the show Monster said to Jeff, you know, if you plead insane, we can get you into a mental hospital. And Jeff said, no, I'm not insane, Dad. This was my choice. And so even Jeffrey Dahmer, who committed such heinous crimes, acknowledged to his dad, no, Dad, this is my choice. I'm doing this with a sound mind. And I should be locked up. I shouldn't go sit in a hospital, because I know what I'm doing. And I'm still going to continue to do this if I'm not locked up. Parents today, and that situation is understandable, where you say, obviously, Jeffrey Dahmer is not wired properly. He's causing harm to other people and taking the lives of others in such a vile and heinous way that there's got to be something not wired correctly with him. So, following those lines, we as parents, when our children, we feel they're not wired correctly, or there must be something wrong, we always tend to point to a mental disorder. Or, in certain cases, I've seen parents blame the spouses of their sons and daughters. Now, we have to remember our sons and daughters have chosen to marry their person. They will probably go on to have children with them, which a lot of families do. Are you really going to get into an argument with your son or daughter-in-law knowing they're going to hold control over your grandchildren? As much as I would like to say, well, my son-in-law has control over the situation, I don't know my son-in-law. But what it comes down to is our children have made these choices, a majority of them with a sound mind. Unless you know from young on they were diagnosed with a certain medical condition and they had the medication, maybe they're off their medication and maybe they've gone astray. But for the most part, our adult sons and daughters are making a conscious decision to break free. And what is our responsibility to do? Am I gonna get on my knees, beg and plead and cry and say, I'll give you what you want, just come back? Absolutely not. It is not against the law for someone to disconnect from their family, their mom, their dad, their twin. They can disconnect from anyone they want. Is it a shame? It's a shame for those of us left behind because we're left to pick up the pieces. But once you pick up those pieces, it's your job to glue it all back together. So anyways, I know talking about Jeffrey Dahmer is kind of off the beaten path, but just like what his dad went through when his son made those choices. Jeffrey said, this is my decision and my choice, and I know what I'm doing. Our adult sons and daughters know what they're doing. So with that said, I'll be back.